This country, under this APC regime, came to become the poverty capital of the world. It became the place where the minimum wage became the miserable wage for workers.
But if you think about Nigeria itself, it's an open prison.
But Sowore, tell me about what you've been finding out on the ground in terms of your reporting about maybe there being some military involvement, police involvement, corruption. Where does that play a part?
Well, it's a little bit of everything, and I've said it before, and I will say it again, that it's a cocktail of how Nigeria has been run in the last 40 years. I say it, and I'll repeat it here today, that so many of the things that Boko Haram does in Nigeria and gets away with, it's actually a small law enforcement issue. But because the government of Nigeria has not been running itself well, and the law enforcement agencies have been involved in corruption over the years, they've destroyed the agency of security, they have destroyed the country, they've dehumanized its people. You have every little problem in Nigeria escalates into a big thing. When we didn't have Boko Haram, we had the Niger Delta militants. As a matter of fact, a guy named Dokubu Asari is threatening as we speak that if Jonathan president does not become the president in 2015, they will render Nigeria ungovernable. Kidnappers in the eastern part of Nigeria has made it even impossible for people to bury their dead. So Nigeria is badly run. Corruption has ruined Nigeria. It has dehumanized its people. And these leaders are seen as people who don't love their people. They don't love the country. And that's why you see that Dr. Okupe, when he was speaking, didn't even know where this is coming from. He said they are using force, they are using dialogue. But as we speak today, even the amnesty that they organized has failed, because the army and elements in the military do not want amnesty to succeed, because this is where they make their corruption money from. The military, JTF in the Niger Delta, are involved directly in some form of corruption in what they call oil bunkering. They love this. They love Nigeria the way it is broken. And that is why citizens should gather together and face up to our reality. We have a bad leadership in place that can't get anything done.
Dr. Okupe?
Thank you very much. Sometimes one cannot but be ashamed about how certain pseudo-elites of Nigeria, like Sowore and co., castigate their own country and the leadership of their own country. Being tucked away, far away in the United States, in the comfort zone, it is a lot easier to just condemn, various governments and various administrations in your own country. Now, I remember very well, there was a time in Ghana where everything went down to, to the most basic thing. Poverty became ravaging, and life became very difficult to live, to the extent that people became displaced and they were moving away from their homes in Ghana. They flooded all the West African coast, especially Nigeria. What I'm trying to say is that in spite of ravaging poverty, Ghanaians did not take up arms against their people, against their country. I agree that there's a lot of youthful unemployment, but that itself cannot explain the degree of devastation that Nigeria is facing from Boko Haram. People cannot pretend not to recognize the influence of a new phenomenon that is going on in the world. It's a global thing. The Al-Qaeda thing, the Islamist fundamentalism that is spreading like a wave around the Islamic states, in places where Islam is very strong, cannot be underestimated.
Okay,
these
Dr.
people
Doyin.
are ideological.
Dr. Doyin, I have to ask you one thing to do.
Yeah. Well, we have a major problem in Nigeria with this insurgency, but the federal government of Nigeria is doing its utmost best to sort it out. And I believe that the Nigerian military has the Nigerian military and the security agencies have the capability to resolve these issues. But because it's an internal insurgency, there's a need to have limited attack.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, basically, we're in a situation now where the northern elites, the traditional rulers, and the opinion leaders in the north, came and spoke very extensively with Mr. President, and seriously demanded and requested and pleaded for, some intervention in the form of the willingness of government to grant amnesty to Boko Haram. And this is the phase in which we are. Guarantees have been given that, the northern leaders and the northern elites will be able to extract a dialogue mode from the Boko Haram, and the government the government has put up a committee to oversee this in conjunction with the leadership of the entire North. Now, it is hoped that this will produce results. But, the resolve of government to end Boko Haram and the devastating effects, in the areas where it is prevalent is totally unshaken. And the government retains the capability and, the wherewithal to stop this dastardly act.
To Dr. Okupe that, I don't like when they make comparison between Nigeria and other countries that are broken. They never make comparison between Nigeria and other countries that are working. Because Ghana did not make $500 billion from oil by the time it had poverty. Ghana did not have the kind of population that Nigeria had. It didn't have the kind of land space, the rivers, the seas, and, the very, very, very progressive, hardworking people that Nigeria had when Ghana went through all of that. We are saying once again that it is very convenient to accuse those of us who are trying to make Nigeria work that we're ensconced somewhere abroad. I mean, Dr. Doyin Okupe forgot that when the military was ravaging the land, we were student leaders who were fighting on the ground. When the likes of Dr. Doyin Okupe were all around doing deals, with the military leaders and selling away Nigeria. I reported, and that's part of the problem, I reported on Doyin Okupe himself, Dr. Doyin Okupe, having been involved in corruption. And that's why Nigeria is the way it is today, because he was detained for several months in corruption. See where he is. He's
Dr.
speaking
Okupe,
on behalf of Nigeria.
Dr. Okupe, I hear you laughing. I see you laughing. Jump in just very briefly.
Because, the guy that is talking to you is a huge joke. He's a liar. A man without any reputation. People who collect money and just say anything, destroy people. You see, he's talking about corruption about me. There's never been charges of corruption against
you anywhere. Were detained for corruption by the EFCC.
This is what they do. They just, can you please just shut up? This is what you guys do. You just disparage people and, and just mess people up. Just because you have an online media, that does not give you right to destroy people's personalities and integrities.
So, Dr. Okupe, Dr. Okupe, what has this got to do with Boko Haram?
What I said about Ghana.
What has this got to do with Boko Haram? What has this got to do with the issue of Boko Haram? This to and forth that you're doing?
You should have asked Sowore that.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter, what I said about Ghana was that Ghana went through a very hard time. And in that time, the poor people, did not take up arms against their people. They did not become insurgents. They did not start to kill anybody. That this Boko Haram, that we are having right now in the country, are people who are ideologically motivated. They are motivated by their religion. And
right.
It's not just in Nigeria. Yeah, the sentence, the only one sentence I can make right now is that Nigerians should not despair. Government is doing its best, and the government will continue to do, what it needs to do to ensure that it overcomes this menace. And by God's grace, we will overcome it in due course. Thank you.
Nigeria, they use computer. The leaders of Nigeria, they use radio where they turn the knob.